Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to Storytime. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. Karen wants me to work there, but I don't. Players, myself, Karen, OBK, obese kid about 10 to 12 years old, store clerk. I live way out of town but work in town, so I frequently go into stores before or after work while dressed in my work clothes, since this saves me a 2-hour round trip to go home and change. This will become important later. Last fall, I was looking for a washing machine and found a really nice one marked down to less than half price. I found a sales clerk who was helping a man and a lady, and when he looked in my direction, I indicated that I would like to purchase the washing machine when he was finished with his other customers and had a minute. He nodded. I went over to the washing machine to wait for him so I could keep first dibs on buying it. A woman, who will be known as Karen, with a very obese kid in tow, came up to me and asked me for help. No biggie, this has happened to me before. I smiled and told her that I don't work there. She got irritated and told me she couldn't find anybody who worked there. The sales clerk was maybe 10 feet away and that she wanted me to work there. I said, but I don't work here. Then she said, but I need help with a dishwasher. I told her that I know nothing about their dishwashers and don't even own a dishwasher, and that she would need to ask somebody who actually does work there. She glared at me and was about to leave when she glanced at my shirt and gasped. She was quiet for a few seconds, but it was just an intake of air before I was treated to one of the most famous Karen Rees at full volume in person. She pointed to my shirt and said, "What do you mean you don't work here? You do too work here, and I want your help right now. That's enough of your poop." I looked at her calmly and said, "Ma'am, this," pointing to the embroidery on my shirt, says name of grocery store. You are in name of hardware store. I do not work here." But she wasn't having any of it and let loose at me at full volume, yelling about being a mother and having her kid with her, and now I needed to stop effing around and help her because she has a kid. Poor obese kid looked embarrassed. I actually felt sorry for him because he must have to deal with her nonsense every day. Karen stomped away yelling about making a complaint. Then, for some reason, she turned around and came back to glare at me. I told her again that I do not work there and that she would simply have to find someone who does work there to help her. She kept complaining and telling obese kid about how she would have to wait since I refused to help her. Yelled at me about how she is a mother and her time is important, and on and on. After a few minutes, she quieted down and stood between me and the dishwashers, glaring at me. I couldn't resist. I gave her my sweetest smile and said, "Oh, and when that clerk is finished with the people he's helping, I'm next." She let out an epic ree, grabbed the beast kid by the arm, and stomped off. As soon as he saw that Karen was gone, the store clerk quit talking to the other customers, who he'd been halfway hiding behind, made sure she was out of sight, then, seeing it was now safe, came over to help me. I don't blame the clerk for docking her. If you were in OP's situation, how would you handle this yelling Karen? Let me know what you would say or do in the comments below. I work here, but I don't work for the building. Background: I used to work as an executive protection operator, EPO. The company I worked for, however, would routinely ask us if we wanted to do regular security gigs. As an EPO, my going rate was $25 to $30 an hour since we were typically only working the odd day or night, or weekend here and there. So when regular security jobs presented themselves, I usually declined since I wasn't about to make $13 an hour to stand around and do nothing all day. The only times I'd accept were for one store in Ottawa that was amazing to work for, since the employees were all amazing people and the company would put me up in a super nice hotel. Or if it was holiday season and I wanted a little extra cash for gifts. The gig. It was Christmas 2013. The year we had that wicked polar vortex, and the stadium had just had its employees walk out on strike. The stadium has its own security for the stadium, but they think a little visible presence is required to make sure the strikers don't intimidate people coming to watch events or to ensure no vandalism occurs. So my company asks if I'm up for a week or two gig. Foolishly, I accept the job and am posted to the outside perimeter of the building. I cannot stress this enough. Myself and the other contracted security were 100% separate from the stadium. We weren't even allowed inside except to use the washroom, and that was a whole ordeal where we needed to have someone walk with us to and from the washroom. Anyways, the event on this day was a basketball game between the Toronto Raptors and the, at the time, Charlotte Bobcats. I hate sports, so I wasn't even aware that a basketball game was scheduled for that night. The event. I'm standing outside the venue in the polar vortex, just about ready to either kill myself or walk out on the bull regular security job, when this dude walks up to me. He isn't really looking at me, mostly playing on his phone, and as he approaches, he says, "Let me in." I'm a bit of a jerk when I'm miserable, so I didn't even acknowledge his existence as he approached. Now I took a look at him. He was this pretty darn imposing black dude, and he was looking at me to let him in. From here on, we'll just call him MF, because as you're about to see, the was a bit of a misunderstanding. Excuse me? Let me in. Alright, I have two thoughts. One, I have no idea who this guy is. Two, I'm not employed by the building as regular security. I can't let anyone in. I can't even get inside myself. Sorry, sir, I can't do that. No, man, I'm a Bobcat, let me in. As I mentioned, I hate sports. I only learned the Bobcats were renamed to the Hornets writing this because I wanted to make sure my facts were straight. I'm also somewhat of a country kid. I hate cities with a passion. So when he tells me he's a Bobcat, my brain immediately jumps to the one thing I know about cities. Gangs. Well, I'm sorry, sir, but I actually can't let you in. At this point, the dude finally put away his phone, and I got to enjoy his undivided attention. I'm a Bobcat. He says it like I misheard him the first time. I don't care. Very nervous now. All that's running through my head is that we aren't armed, so if gang crap pops off, I'm freaked. Man, you're letting me in or else you're freaked. At this point, I'm pretty sure I'm in for a fight, so I try to de-escalate. Sir, I understand your frustration, but threats won't get you anywhere. The doors won't open until whatever time they opened. If you have a ticket, I'm sure you'll have no problem getting in. Man, go freak yourself. I'm a Bobcat. Me finally angry but not yelling. I don't give a crap. Listen here, if you don't let me in, I'll have your job. You want to lose your job just before Christmas? Me just laughs. This guy could be the CEO of the venue and I still wouldn't have lost my job since I don't work for them. Let me in, we're playing tonight. Huh? What was that? Playing? I'm a Bobcat. We're playing tonight against the Raptors. Oh. I start to laugh. MF is not amused. I told you I was a Bobcat at the start. Dude, I hate sports and basketball is so far off my radar. The only teams I can name are the Toronto Raptors, the Harlem Globetrotters, the Monstars, and the Toon Squad. And I'm pretty sure the last two aren't real. MF huffs. Understandable, he worked his butt off to get there and I basically told him his success and career are so unimportant I couldn't even be bothered to know he was supposed to be there tonight. Whatever, just let me in. I can't. What the freak, man? I'm playing tonight. You know I'm playing. Okay, A, I still don't know who you are, so this could easily be a ruse. And B, I'm sure some of the smarter people in the audience know where this is going. Sir, I literally can't let you in. See those strikers over there? I was contracted to keep an eye on them. I don't have access to the building. I couldn't get in right now even if I wanted to. So how the freak do I get in? I have no idea. How'd the rest of your team get in? The boss? Alright, well, if they're inside, maybe call or text one of them to come let you in. Whatever. He stormed off in a huff around the corner of the building, and I never saw him again. In his defense, I was standing outside one of the main doors in a security guard uniform. I definitely looked like I worked for the building and was technically being paid by them. But as I said in the beginning, I neither worked for the building and I did not have access to the building. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed the read. I've heard stories of this happening all the time, actually, where security doesn't know the basketball player. Just because they're a basketball player doesn't mean that anybody's just going to know who they are. Some people just don't listen, I guess. This happened a few years ago. At the time, I usually ordered my groceries from a different store and had it delivered because I don't drive. But on the day in question, I was famished and tired from work and just wanted to make myself a sandwich and go to bed. In the kitchen, I realize I'm out of bread. My bad for not putting it on my list when I was running low, I guess. I decide to go not to my usual store, which is pretty far on foot, but to the local mart, which should be open for another half hour or so. The dress code was black dress pants, a blue button-up shirt, black shoes, and a name tag with the employee's name and role. I was wearing a printed t-shirt cargo pants and orange sneakers, and obviously no name tag. I was also munching on an apple because I was pretty hungry, which I expect employees don't usually do while on the clock. On my way to get my bread, I'm stopped by a middle-aged couple. The husband asks me, "Excuse me, miss, do you know where we can find cleaning product?" I figure they think I know the store well or something, but as I said earlier, I don't usually shop there. And since I have my groceries delivered, I wouldn't even know what aisle it was on anyway. So I tell him, "Sorry, I don't know, maybe you can ask an employee?" "Could you check in the back?" the husband asked, and for a second I froze, trying to understand what was going on, because that made no sense as a response. Finally, I decided he probably hadn't listened past "sorry" and had invented the rest of the sentence. So I explain, "Sir, I don't work here. And they might have some on the shelves, I just don't know where that would be. I could get a store employee for you if you'd like." I know I had no obligation to help them, but I could see an employee further down the line behind them and figured I could flag her over and go back to my own shopping. The man sighed while his wife smiled at me sympathetically. "I'd like to speak to your manager, please." I have no idea what line he invented for me this time. I figure since he's not listening anyway, there is no point in talking to him. I wave the employee over and walk away when I see she's on her way. As I'm walking away, I hear the wife whispering, "She doesn't work here, honey," to her husband. Emphasis on whispering, so it doesn't seem like he was hard of hearing or anything. And this time, miraculously, he seems to hear the actual words spoken to him. "Of course she does," he responds. Then to me, "Hey, you work here, right?" I took a big bite of my apple and turned back and shake my head. It's rude to speak with your mouth full. Plus, whatever I said, he probably would have heard yes. He does understand the head shake though and looks bewildered. As the employee reaches them and asks how she can help them, he whispers to his wife, "How did you know?" I had to shake my head while getting my bread, and on the way home I felt bad for the wife. Sure, he actually listened to what she said, but he also dismissed it and immediately tried to prove her wrong. And she looked at me with a resigned look, like it happened all the time. Then again, she did take him with her shopping, so maybe she enjoyed watching him embarrass himself. I think the detail that really sets this off for me is the apple. If you saw somebody walking around munching on an apple in a market, why would you think they worked there? Doesn't make sense to me. Mistaken identity leads to surprise reunion. I was shopping at a local hardware store whose staff wear distinctive red t-shirts. I happened to be wearing a t-shirt of the same color, which was emblazoned with my work logo, radio station. I was minding my own business looking at paint as I had a few rooms to decorate at home and get a tap on the shoulder from a frail yet lovely sounding old lady asking me where she can find the sandpaper. I had seen it prior, so I showed her where, all the time thinking, I know her. Anyway, she starts asking me questions about the different grades of sandpaper, etc. And I told her I didn't know much about it and kindly told her I didn't work there. Then it dawned upon me. It had been 25 years since I last saw this lady. She was my favorite primary school teacher when I was 5 years old. And she remembered me. Day made. Was lovely to see her and reminisce. That's a great moment because there's been a time or two where I think about some of the great teachers I enjoyed growing up. And you kind of wonder what situation they're in, you always wish the best for them, but you rarely get that situation where you get to see them again. And that's what OP luckily got to do here. But with that said, that's all the stories we have for today, so what I want to know is which of these stories was your personal favorite and why? Let me know why in the comments below. And thank you all so much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.